The Mariners kick off a gauntlet of an East Coast road trip tonight by paying visit to arguably the best team in the American League. We'll get you set for that coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's show, we're going to get you set for the Mariners' upcoming series with the Orioles. But before we do that, a quick shout out to our title sponsor, FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, that's LOCKEDON, to get started. And also, if you want to hear more from me and Colby and support us along the way, check out our Patreon. The link is in the description, and you can check it all out for free with a 7-day trial. So, Colby, let's talk a little bit about this upcoming road trip. You got 3 with the Orioles this weekend. Then you go to New York to play the Yankees, and then after that, you wrap things up with 3 against the Washington Nationals. How are you feeling heading into this road trip? What are your thoughts? What are your concerns, etc.?
Well, I guess my first thought would be don't go 0-10.
It's a good start. Yeah.
My second thought would probably be don't go 1-9.
I think I can see where you're going with this.
Yeah, you might be seeing a pattern forming. But yeah, it's an extremely difficult, not only road trip, but the rest of this month, essentially, is that you're playing 17 games in 17 days. You're on this East Coast swing for 10 days, and then you don't even get an off day to travel back to the West Coast. So it's brutal. You know, this is probably the toughest stretch just physically and mentally in the Mariners' entire schedule. And, you know, it's coming at a time where they're playing pretty good baseball, but they're not 100% healthy. They've been, you know, they've been fine. They've played pretty good baseball, but not their cleanest baseball. So, you know, and you're facing the 2 best teams in the American League record wise. So, it's going to be tough. You know, it's not going to be easy. It's just brutal. So I think when you look at this and you kind of consider where the offense is currently at and how they're operating, where the pitching's at and where the bullpen's at, like this is a potential turning point, early in the season, which is not great, but it is what it is. You know, I mean, we probably could have circled this stretch of games at the beginning of the year and said, you know, 17 games in 17 days this early in the season, a lot of them against good teams. Like it's going to be tough. It's going to be a difficult road trip. I think, you know, realistically, if you're looking at those 10 games, if you can find a way to go 5-5, I think you'd be really happy with that. Certainly you want to win all 3 of these series, but you know, you have to try and be realistic here. These are, again, 2 really good teams in the American League, and the Nationals are not a team that you should, you know, assume anything against. They have some guys, particularly CJ Abrams, who can really cause some problems for you. So, yeah, you hope the Mariners pitching holds out, particularly the starting pitching. I don't think you want to trust your bullpen, particularly the middle of your bullpen, to hold a lot of leads in these ballparks that they're going to be in over the next, you know, week and a half. So it's going to be a battle, man. If you go 5-5, I would consider that a really good road trip. If you do anything better than that, it's a great road trip. And it doesn't honestly matter what Texas does, what Houston does, like what other teams do. Like you can't even scoreboard watch in these 10 games because that's how difficult they're going to be. You can't assume anything. There's no lead that's going to be safe on this road trip. So yeah, it's difficult. You know, there's really no question about it, but you hope your starting pitching kind of stays on this run that they've been on. Not quite as good as the run that they were on for that, where they gave up 21 runs in 20 games or whatever. Like, obviously they're probably not going to do that again. And they haven't over the last week or so, but
Sure.
They need to give you, you know, 6-7 innings a night. They need to find a way to, you know, help out this bullpen and the last couple games they have. And it would be nice if every once in a while on this road trip, you could just win a game like 6-1. And then that way you don't have to use Andres Munoz every single night in a high leverage spot. So yeah, if you find a way to go 5-5, 4-6 is not a disaster on this road trip. You know, 3-7, it's not, you're back at 500 at that point. Like, not great, somewhat understandable, but you know, if you're going to fancy yourself a World Series caliber team here, then I think going 5-5 or 6-4 is a statement
Yeah.
to that effect, that you can run with the big boys and you can survive on the road. And like I said, it's just going to be a brutal, really 2 weeks, but it starts with this 10-game road trip.
Yeah, you need to be able to hold your own at the very least on this road trip.
Mm-hmm.
And the key to this road trip for me is how deep the starters can consistently go, because my feelings on the bullpen. I've talked about this bullpen the last couple of episodes. They need help. Andres Munoz needs help. And so I don't think the Mariners are going to be winning many of these games if they're going to have to go to Trent Thornton in the 6th. Right. So starters have to go 6 at least, pretty much on a consistent basis, at least against the Orioles and the Yankees. They might be able to pull that off a little bit more against a team like the Nationals, but against a lineup like Baltimore specifically, like, you have to be on your A game. So it really doesn't, like, obviously it matters what the offense does, what the Mariners offense does in this series, but it also kind of doesn't really. Like, a lot of this does fall on the shoulders of the starting rotation.
Right. Baltimore and Seattle have played some really good games over the last few years, but we know how tough Baltimore is. If they get any kind of consistent, starting pitching this weekend, then it's going to be tough. It's going to be a battle. Like, I don't think that you're going to, handily win this series, and we'll see. You're coming off the off day, which is great, but it's the last one you're going to get for 17 days. So also, don't be surprised if Scott, manages games a little differently on this road trip, because again, you don't have a day off for 2.5 weeks, right? Like, there's going to be times where you're sitting there going, "Oh, go to Munoz for the 4th to, have him get a 4-out save," and it's just not going to be a viable option. Like, Munoz is going to be down at some point in this series, in this road trip, where, like, he's the obvious answer, and he's not even going to be able to give you anything because he's just going to be down for that day. Like, other people have to step up, and Scott is going to have to manage this thing a little bit differently, because every single game counts, sure, but you're not going to push a guy so far that you're going to hurt yourself in June, July, August,
Right,
because you're trying to win a series in Baltimore. Like, Scott's going to do things a little differently here. He's going to be cautious. He's going to give guys more regular days off. Like, I'd be surprised if anybody plays more than, in the next 2 weeks. I'd be surprised if anybody plays more than 14 games. I think everybody's going to at least get 1 or 2 days off in every series on this in this little stretch that they have here.
All right, so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the series. We also have an update on JP Crawford. We'll get into all that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. You can catch the Mariners and the Orioles tonight on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners, and we're going to get into the series a little bit more. But first, we have an update on JP Crawford from Ryan Divish yesterday. We might have more of an update by the time you're watching this, but as of this recording, all we can go off of right now is what Divish said yesterday, and that's that JP didn't travel with the team to Baltimore, and the Mariners are uncertain as to when he might join the team after being hit by that pitch in Tacoma. He has some swelling on the hand, which is not great, but we'll see once that swelling goes down. Like we talked about yesterday, they'll be able to better assess what the injury is with JP once that swelling goes down, but maybe he'll need another rehab appearance or two before he's able to join the team, but it seems like it's pretty unlikely he's going to join the team in Baltimore. So I would think at the earliest that he'll possibly return, it's going to be New York. Colby, what do you think?
Yeah, not great. I guess the fortunate part of this is that you do get two lefties against Baltimore. So Dylan Moore staying at shortstop, facing left-handed pitching is fine. But obviously you're a better ball club when JP is around. So yeah, it sucks. I mean, there's really not much else to say about it until we have a more firmer grasp, more firmer, whatever, more firmer grasp
Sure.
of what the actual injury is or what the situation is with his hand. You're just kind of stuck in this limbo where there's probably not somebody who makes a lot more sense than Rivas, particularly just based on the pitching matchups this weekend. So, if JP is going to miss a couple more weeks now or something like that, then maybe you would consider making a change in the back end of your roster. But right now, just based on what we know, you're probably rolling with the same 26. And so, it's a bummer. There's no doubt about it. You're significantly better with JP Crawford than you are without him, but there's just not a ton you can do right now. It sucks, but until the swelling goes down, until we can get in there and actually see what's going on with it, with the hand, wrist, whatever, you're kind of stuck. You're in a holding pattern right now. And I don't think what you're going to want to do is I don't think that they're going to be like, oh, JP doesn't have any broken bones, just fly to Baltimore now. I think they're probably going to want to get him in a couple more games now because he kind of has to reset here because he's missed a couple days. So best case scenario, I think he could be with the team. I mean, because of the early start on Sunday, I think the best case scenario is that he flies to New York on Sunday, meets the team there. But yeah, it's a bummer. It's a big bummer because you're going up against a really good team. And, we thought just like 36 hours ago that you were going to go in there at more or less full strength. And it's just not. You're missing the captain and all the things that he allows you to do, from getting Dylan Moore in the outfield to, starting, being able to move guys around to different spots, to covering for different spots, to move guys up and down the lineup with the addition of JP. It sucks. So, that's on top of, we still don't know if we're going to get Garver or Polanco tonight. So
Right.
lots of information, kind of we're trying to sift through here. Lineup should be out.
We have
In a
the
couple
Orioles
minutes.
lineup, but we don't have the Mariners lineup yet. The
Right.
Orioles lineup tonight is Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Ryan O'Hearn, Ryan Mountcastle, Anthony Santander, Colton Cowser, Jordan Westberg, Kyle Stowers, and Jorge Mateo, who can really jet. This Orioles team, they have a billion hitters with a WRC plus north of 100, and that's not even including guys like Cedric Mullins and Austin Hayes, who just returned from injury. Hayes has been a disaster this year. Mullins right now running just a 67 WRC plus. Like I mentioned, he's not in the lineup tonight. But yeah, you look at Westberg, you look at O'Hearn, you look at Henderson, you look at Rutschman, Cowser, Mountcastle, Santander can obviously hit a billion home runs. This lineup is incredibly dangerous. This might be the best lineup in the American League. With all those young hitters
Outside of Seattle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're going to see some great offense this weekend, and it's not going to be the Orioles who are providing it.
All right, I'm going to hold you to that, and then we'll revisit on Monday.
Fine, whatever. It's time for somebody to put an end to that not getting swept streak. That's all I'm saying.
So yeah, how do you feel about this lineup, this Orioles lineup, and how the Mariners rotation stacks up against it? Bryce Miller on the mound tonight.
There's switch hitters in it. There's left-handed pull power. There's righties who can, hit a lot of doubles and all that stuff. Like, it's a very difficult lineup to try and work through. And again, we're not even talking about Cedric Mullins, which if you only watched the last 4 innings of that one game last year in August, the Sunday game in August, Cedric Mullins is the greatest player who ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's insanely deep. And we know they have answers, options down in the minor leagues as well. Like, Yeah, it's going to be a battle. It's difficult. It really is strength on strength here. So we'll see how it goes. Miller, eh, you know, he's been really good so far, but he doesn't quite have the track record of somebody like Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert.
Sure.
So he's probably the one you're most worried about, just practically.
Mhm.
But any one of these pitchers could get lit up, particularly if they don't have their really good control and command. Like you're not going to go out there against this lineup with your 45 command or 45 stuff and have a ton of success against them. Like
Mhm.
not when you have to face them multiple times through the lineup. So you got to be on your P's and Q's. You got to execute. You can't waste pitches. 0-2 is not a waste pitch. It's not a time for Cal to set up 3 feet off the outside corner to throw a pitch that's totally not even close. It's like you have to throw competitive pitches from the first pitch of the series to the last pitch of the series. You have to throw competitive pitches, and every pitch has to have a purpose, and you can't waste anything. You can't give in, just throw something down the middle of the plate to steal a strike. Like you have to be very intentional with how you pitch to this lineup because there's a lot of ways this lineup can beat you. They can do it with speed. They can do it with power. They can go gap to gap. They can draw walks. Like
Mhm.
it's a very complete lineup. It's a young lineup. And so you're going to have to pitch, which thankfully, the Mariners do pretty darn well. So it should be a fun battle. But yeah, there's no lead that's safe against this team. There's no situation where it's just like, just pipe something, see what happens. Like you have to be very intentional. Every single pitch is going to matter in the series.
Mhm. Absolutely. At the very least, the Mariners are catching the Orioles at a decent time with regards to their rotation. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on. That's LOCKEDON and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Once again, you can catch the M's and the O's tonight on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. And like I said just a minute ago, the Mariners actually catching the Orioles rotation at a pretty good time. Right now, they are scheduled to miss both Kyle Bradish and Corbin Burnes. Now, it is possible that Burnes could make an appearance on Sunday. The Orioles starters for Saturday and Sunday are TBD at the moment, and Burnes has an extra day of rest because of the off day on Thursday. And the rotation's kind of in a weird space right now because they had a game postponed on Wednesday against the Blue Jays, or Tuesday against the Blue Jays rather. So maybe they'll actually see Corbin Burnes, but right now, if they do stay in rotation, the Mariners will miss both Burnes and Bradish. So that is huge for the Mariners, right, Colby?
So you certainly would assume so, but I don't know. The Mariners are the team
True.
that'll get shut out by, not Coke Irvin, and then they'll go out and they'll drop a 6 spot on Garrett Cole. So,
Right.
it's a
Right.
little tough to say. And the quality of the starting pitcher doesn't really seem to matter that much right now. Just kind of, hey, if the Mariners score in the first inning, they're probably going to have a pretty good night offensively. If they don't, well, they're probably getting one, or they're probably getting 3 hit, so yeah, but in theory, yeah, it's a great thing. Corbin Burnes is a really good pitcher, and the
Yeah.
more you can avoid him, the better. You only play Baltimore twice in the regular season, like 2 series in the regular season, and so if you can avoid him in 1 series, it means you're only facing him once all year at most. So, yeah, obviously that's a good thing. And Bradish, as we know, is certainly a troubling matchup for Seattle. But again, do matchups really matter against this offense?
Right. John Means obviously off to a good start here this year.
I mean, nearly threw a perfecto against the Mariners.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We know what happened against John Means a few years back in Seattle, so don't need to relitigate that. But he's obviously also been a kind of a darling of Fan Fiction Fridays in the past. Not recently, but a couple years back. I remember
Yeah.
there was a lot of John Means to Seattle talk.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's back from injury, so good for him. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, Cole Irvin is supposed to pitch in this series, or at least if they stay in rotation, he's supposed to pitch in this series. Old
AKA
friend.
Coke Irvin.
AKA Coke Irvin, as your phone wants to call him.
AKA Gee Butter Snaps. What? Yeah, he is. Somebody will get that reference
Sure.
in the comments. Trust me.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's, of the famous, like, I shouldn't be doing that against a lineup that bad or whatever. And then he proceeded to get cooked by the Mariners like 3 more times after that. Like, yeah, that Coke Irvin. But yeah, he's a crafty lefty. So
Kyle Seager's favorite pitcher.
Sure. I think it's Tom Murphy took real exception to
Seager did the whole like who or whatever.
Who is that?
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like, look, you're gonna face 2, like, I wouldn't quite qualify them as like crafty lefties, but they're not overpowering, right? They're guys who are gonna throw strikes, they're gonna beg you to put the ball in play, and they're gonna pitch. Like, they're pitchers. It's not ungodly stuff. So they're gonna have to be, on the command and control and all that stuff. They're going to have to mix it up. But yeah, I mean, so in that sense, they are crafty lefties. They're like modern day crafty lefties who just happen to throw 93, 94. So, which I guess now is not that special. I don't know. When I was growing up, crafty lefties threw like 87.
Yeah.
Right. Now they're throwing 92, 93. But
Jamie
you guys
Moyer.
get the point.
Yeah.
Sure. Jamie Moyer. Barry Zito.
That curveball.
Yeah. 88-mile-an-hour fastball with the curveball. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Ted Lilly. But yeah, it's, I would say in theory, that's a good thing, right? Like, you don't want stuff against the Mariners, but again, it doesn't really matter. This offense is too unpredictable. And this would be a great time to have, Mitch Garver and Jorge Polanco, both of whom traditionally crush lefties. But I don't even know if they're going to be available. And if they're not, you're kind of at a right-handed hitter shortage. This unfortunately does mean, though, that you're probably going to see Haniger in the outfield twice. So,
which in Baltimore's outfield, in that right field, not terrible.
I mean, sure, we say that until the ball gets through the gap that shouldn't, but whatever. Like, you got to pick your spots. So, yeah, the 2 lefties, in theory, you have the pitching advantage, but that's true of just about any matchup against any team. Like, in theory, you probably have the pitching advantage that day. But that would be the case here, assuming that we do get, we're going to get Means tonight. That's locked in. But assuming we do get Irvin tomorrow, then Irvin versus Castillo, that is an advantage that you would like to take advantage of. But you never really know. It's baseball. Anything can happen. And this offense is so wildly inconsistent that it's impossible to sit here and be like, oh, I think this is great there. I think they're going to score 4 or 5 runs tonight. This is a really good matchup. Doesn't exist with this offense. Really doesn't.
This is interesting. Tweet from Madam Jude about 4 minutes ago. Gregory Santos is with the Mariners on this trip, and he's out here throwing from 90 feet at roughly full effort under the watchful eye of trainers. Didn't they say like a week ago he wasn't going to be back until July?
Yep.
Yet he's throwing full effort from 90 feet. Interesting.
Is it though?
Yes.
I would say it's more noteworthy than interesting.
Sure. Captain Semantics.
Do.
Yep.
But
hashtag Captain Semantics down in the comments below.
Sure.
Yep.
But yeah, so I don't know what that's about, but cool. That'd be neat. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Offensively, though, it's tough to feel great about any pitcher. This offense hasn't produced at a consistent level enough for me to like be excited about any matchup. Like,
sure,
I'm done trying to predict which Mariners lineup we're going to get on a daily basis.
Not seeing Corbin Burns and Kyle Bradish, so very good. Now it's up to the Mariners to actually take advantage of that, though. So we'll see. We'll have to see.
I mean,
all right,
like you're going tonight. It's Miller versus Means.
Yep.
If you want to be charitable, you call that a wash. Then it's Castillo versus Irvin. That's a huge advantage to you. And then it's Kramer versus Kirby.
Yeah, assuming they don't start Burns and mix up their rotation.
Sure. And Kirby will either throw 8 shutout innings or give up 8 runs in 3 innings against Baltimore. There is no in between.
Right.
By the way, we have a lineup.
Okay.
We stalled long enough to get a lineup.
There
So
we
we're
go.
going Dylan Moore,
Okay.
Julio,
All right.
Mitch Garver DHing,
Right.
Raleigh,
Nice.
Haniger, Rojas, France, Rayleigh, Urias. So still no Polanco.
Still no Polanco. But
Even
they're
against
not
the lefty.
putting him on the IL either. So that's interesting.
I mean, because right now they could still retroactively do it, and he could still miss the minimum time. But if they wait until Sunday, I think, then they would. Like, you can only retroactively put somebody on the IL up to 4 days
4
ago,
days.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the cutoff. So, I mean, do off days count? So today might be the last day you could retroactively put him on the IL, and he would still only miss a week. So, yeah, something to keep in mind. It's, not great. It does mean that Rojas is going to get a shot against the lefty, though.
Mhm.
So
Well,
we'll see. And
at
hey,
least
by the way,
Garver's back.
yeah, we'll have the Urias brothers playing against each other. Is Ramon still? Is
Yeah, he is on the team.
Yeah.
Are they related?
Yeah, so I think they're brothers.
Are they really?
I'm
Hold
pretty
on.
sure.
Let me look that up. I didn't know that. Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
they
Yeah.
look very similar. Yeah, they have to be related. Like they look a lot alike in the face. Yeah, his Ramon's the younger brother.
By
No,
how
he
much?
is the older brother. Never mind, I read that wrong.
I was
He
gonna
is
say,
the older
'cause
brother of
Luis
Luis
is only
Arias.
26.
Yeah, I read that as his older brother Luis Arias, and I was like, Ramon Urias has been around for a while.
Sure. I mean, to be fair, Luis is in what, year 4 or 5?
Yeah.
So, like, anyways, yeah. What a family. 2 major leaguers.
There you go.
Born like a couple years apart.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a good game out of Luis Arias tonight after
You certainly are for the brand.
After the brand was hurt a bit in that Kansas City series. So yeah.
Meanwhile, my flag player list is just
Immaculate.
off the charts. It is
it's
everybody.
Yeah,
You're just
I got smoked. I got smoked.
Still time. You just need the Mitches to be, a problem.
Hold on. Who's the person that always posts it in the comments? Oh, I want to give a shout out to them because they've literally done it every single episode, holding us accountable. Yeah.
Only one of us feels like they need to be held accountable.
Be Brave 8. Colby flagged Luke Rayleigh, Logan Gilbert, Josh Rojas, Brian Wu, and Dylan Moore. Ty flagged Bryce Miller. Okay. Jorge Polanco. Luis Arias. Mitch Garver. And Mitch Haniger. That has not worked out particularly well for me. So you can blame me for those 4 guys not being off to
you can
to
thank
great
me
starts.
for those 5 guys being off to great starts.
That's going to do it for our show. But before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.